Okay, good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Onalaska Common Council meeting this evening. Today is Tuesday, October 8th, and the time is 7 p.m. We'll begin with the roll call. I'll ask the clerk, Joanne Marcon, to call the roll.
Mayor Kim Smith,
Here.
Sean McAllister,
Here.
Dan Stevens,
Present.
Stephen Knott,
Present.
Mike Milkey,
Here.
Larry Jurassic, Diane Wolf, here.
We are all accounted for. Item 2 is the Pledge of Allegiance. For the pledge this evening, I'd like to welcome the Girl Scout Badgerland Council Troop 7571 up to lead us in the pledge. Please come forward, ladies.
Bring cookies.
They did, they're out in the, so you'll want to face the flag, put your hand on your heart. And when everyone is settled. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job, thank you. Item 3 is the rules of the City of Onalaska Common Council and its subcommittees. This is a harassment-free forum. The city council and subcommittee meetings shall be conducted in a courteous manner. Citizens, council, and committee members shall be allowed to state their positions in an atmosphere free of slander, obscene remarks, or threats of violence. Sufficient warnings may be given by the sergeant at arms or the chair at any time during the remarks. And in the event that any individual shall violate the rules of decorum as set forth, such person may then be cut off from comment or debate. Item 4 on the agenda this evening is public input. Now is the time for members of the public to give input to the Onalaska Common Council. If you choose to do so, please come forward to the podium. Begin by stating your name and your address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. So I can take that for you. The first person can step forward, make sure that's green on the microphone, and begin with your name and address, please.
I'd first like to start this by saying Darlene Wozni. We all are familiar with Darlene Wozni. She was a resident of the Onalaska Terrace. We know that. She passed away unnecessarily on September 6th. Very sad. My name is Helene Diezek. I live at 1102 Pierce Street in Onalaska. I've been a resident of Onalaska for 31 years. I think that's substantial. I have a petition that I've presented to you on behalf of the members and my co-residents in my neighborhood, suggesting that we need to do something safe for the residents of Onalaska at 11th and Main. She died unnecessarily. And the reason I say that is 2 years ago, and Diane is well aware of this, I came to the city of Onalaska because I was almost hit and killed by a car walking my dog at 5:30 in the afternoon at the end of November. It's dimly lit. It's dangerous. She referred me to Jared Holter. Jared Holter said he looked at the situation there. Didn't see a problem with it. He suggested that I walk down to the crosswalk lights on 12th and Main. So now here's another situation. We have residents here from Onalaska Terrace, or Anna Terrace. How are they supposed to go all the way down to the corner cross and come back up to go to church, to go for a walk? And what is the city of Onalaska doing to make our environment safe? I'm saddened by this. It's insane. 2 years ago, I brought this to your attention and you blew it off. You blew it off. Now Darlene is dead. Would a pedestrian safety flashing light saved her life? I don't know. But it sure would have given an alarm to it. When I was walking around getting my petition signed, I went to the Better Hearing Center. They said they witness people eastbound going from 2 lanes to 1 lane. 50 miles an hour they go sometimes to beat the people that are in the left lane. I've witnessed this. What are we doing safely? What are we doing, police? What are we doing to keep our residents safe? That's a busy street. There's walkers that are hit. There's churchgoers that are hit on that corner. Certainly you have statistics somewhere that people are being injured. And I don't know what the city of Onalaska is doing to keep us safe. That's sad. And you guys should all have Darlene's name on your minds. What are you gonna do? I live in your district. I live in your district. I keep my house well tended. I pay my taxes. I pay my water. What are you doing for us? I want to know. So with that, I will give my time to whoever would like to speak to you in an open forum here. And I just really hope and pray that there is some resolution to the safety that we are seeking. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Welcome.
My name is Charles Vina. I live at 223 11th Avenue North. I moved here 6 years ago. I walk my dog twice a day, morning and night. And I walk up to the church and I watch that corner. In the 6 years I've been here, I've seen 3 people get hit in that intersection. One in the crosswalk that goes across 11th Avenue North as a person was coming in off of Main Street. I saw a person hit as she was walking from church across to the other side of Main Street with a car that come flying out of 11th Street south. And also I watched a young man that was running across the crosswalk. A car comes screeching up to him and he had his hand on the hood when that guy finally stopped and almost knocked him over. That's just 3 weeks ago. It's getting worse on that intersection. And on Sunday afternoon, this past Sunday, I was about 5 o'clock up by St. Patrick's. A young man came up Main Street from the west, turned so fast onto 11th Avenue North, the tires were just squealing. He almost lost control. He got it straightened out. There was a car parked on the right side of the street. To avoid hitting that car when he got straightened out, he swung so far, he had to go on the left side of the street, past the crosswalk sign that's in the middle of the street. And if a car coming that way, he would have hit him head on. And just before that, 3 young boys had been on bikes right there and then went into the school parking lot or playground there. We could have had lots of problems there. The speed is really getting high on 11th Avenue and Main Street. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You can lift that microphone down and have Joanne, have her step a little closer to you so she can see the. Good evening. Start by saying your name and your address.
I'm Finley and I live on 4th Avenue North Street, 923, Onalaska. I hope we put up the crosswalk so no one gets hurt.
Thank you, ma'am. Absolutely.
A little more additional discussion on pedestrian travel. Last week, I was coming from the Quick Trip to go back to Anna Terrace, and an elderly lady tripped and fell on the sidewalk on 12th Street. in front of Center 90, where tree roots had heaved the sidewalk up. So I kind of been looking around and being more conscious of the conditions of the sidewalk. I think it's about time that we have condemnation and get some replacement done. It's getting pretty rough out there. I myself,
Can I interrupt you a minute we need to have your name and your address for the record to start with. Can you give us that, your name and your address?
oh, Tom Johnson, 1126 Main Street, apartment 4.
Okay, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Okay, continue, please.
I myself have opted to use the street because it's too bumpy to use the sidewalk with a power wheelchair. And so it's getting to be where it needs to be looked at. I appreciate anything you can do for it.
Thank you, sir. Welcome. Please begin by stating your name and your address for the record.
Hello, William Chase. I'm not a resident of Onalaska. I live at N19871 Peacock Road, Ettrick, Wisconsin. But I've been a member of St. Pat's Parish for 62 years. And I work at St. Pat's. I mow their grass and shovel the snow and stuff. But I was working the day Darlene was killed, and fortunately I didn't have to see it. I just got done mowing and I went inside. One of my coworkers came out right after it happened. But I know every morning, school-age kids, either from public or St. Pat's cross right there. And I know everybody's in a hurry when they're going to work or wherever they're going. So it's, there's no solution to everything, but if there were maybe a flashing yellow light, it would really help alert people of everybody that's crossing. I did see a little boy about 15 years ago get hit between 12th Avenue and 11th Avenue, and he flew like 15 feet. I broke down when I seen that, but fortunately he wasn't hurt. I mean, it's amazing he made it through, but other than that, there's a solution to this, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Would anyone else like to address the Common Council this evening? Welcome.
Welcome. My name is Therese Bina. I live at 223 11th Avenue North in Onalaska. I would just like to add to all of these people speaking. Like Chuck said, he walks our dog morning and evening. And I can't tell you the number of times he has come home and he'll say, oh my gosh, I just about got hit. Either up by the main street or in the other crosswalks there. He said, they just aren't respecting the speed limit anymore. And I would hate to have me called and said, your husband and your little dog have been hit. I've been a nurse for many years, and that's a horrible thing to have people come in and hit by cars. So I would hope, and Diane, you especially, do something about that intersection before someone else receives the call that their relative has died. Please. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening. Welcome.
My name is Mary Teclosiano. I reside at 624 11th Avenue North here in Onalaska. I'm a Girl Scout leader in this community. Today, I stand before you to advocate for the safety of our children, family, and the elderly, and all pedestrians at the intersection of Main and 11th Avenue North near St. Patrick's Catholic School. As a leader, I have the privilege of working closely with our youngest scouts, teaching them the values of community, responsibility, and safety, and I'm here today to lead by example, to advocate for these in our community. I'm not only a Girl Scout leader, but also a parent of 2 children who attend St. Patrick's School. Each week, I witness the enthusiasm as children walk to and from St. Patrick's for activities and school events. It fills my heart with joy to see them explore our neighborhood, to attend field trips that are close by. But it also fills me with concern every time the children approach this busy intersection. Main and 11th is a critical junction for many families and the elderly. It's not just a pathway, it's a route filled with children's laughter, parents guiding their little ones, and our community coming together. Yet without adequate pedestrian lights, this intersection becomes a daunting challenge for them. Drivers often overlook pedestrians, as we've noticed. And without clear signals, our children and elderly are at risk as they navigate this busy area. I urge the council to consider the potential impact of installing pedestrian lights at this intersection. It's not just about convenience. It's about creating a safe environment where children and the elderly can cross confidently and families can move without fear. We must remember that pedestrian safety is a shared responsibility, and we have the power to enhance the community's safety. By investing in pedestrian lights, we can send a powerful message that our city prioritizes the safety of its residents, especially our most vulnerable, the children and the elderly. These lights will not only improve visibility, but also remind drivers to slow down and be mindful in those crossing the road. Moreover, implementing pedestrian lights aligns with our city's commitment to fostering a walkable, family-friendly environment. Imagine a community where children can walk to school, attend events, and participate in programs without the constant worry of crossing a busy street. This is the kind of community we can build together. I ask you all to consider the families and elderly who frequent this intersection, the children learning the importance of safety like those behind me, and the message we send when we take action. Let us make the intersection of Main and 11th Ave North a safer place for everyone. Thank you for your time, and I urge you to take this critical step toward ensuring our community remains safe and a welcoming space for all. Let's work together to light the way for our pedestrians.
Thank you for that. Would anyone else like to address the Common Council this evening? Welcome.
With a hearing, I am Ward Kyle, 426 4th Avenue North. With a hearing issue, Your Honor, you want to cut me off, you're going to have to talk loud. Anyway, I am here tonight to thank the police and the fire department. My neighbor across the street, Linda Adams, asked me to be here along with her grandchildren also. I thank you. Her tree, a willow tree, went down last week in a big wind, went across the sidewalk out to the street. Also brought a wire down from a power pole, and I happened to go over there. Not that dumb, Sean. I did not pick up the wire. But anyway, I called the non-emergency number, and I have to say this: Chad Marcon was there almost before I hung up. He and a couple of squads came later along with a fire truck. The firemen cleared the sidewalk. It was completely over it and the curb, and they removed the wire, old telephone wire. They removed that, and the police department also did a welfare check on Linda. She has very serious Parkinson's. We all thank you. Thank you. And I also noticed tonight, by the way, on the agenda, there is item 15. I'm assuming you folks know what that is. Current numbers of compensation, of course, of this community and other communities are public record. You can go to the library and get them. With Unalaska being in the top 5 population in western Wisconsin, from Illinois to Lake Superior, the numbers are appalling. We, referring to many others who are aware of this, and we've had a few meetings, not just hope, but expect that this compensation situation will be remedied tonight in your closed session on item 15. These committed servants of this community deserve just rewards. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, would anyone else like to address the Common Council this evening? Welcome. Please begin by stating your name and your address. Okay, thank you very much for your input. We appreciate that. Would anyone else like to address the Common Council this evening? Second call for anyone else wishing to give public input this evening. Third and final call for any additional public input. Public input is now closed, and we'll move on to our first public hearing of the evening, number 5. It's a public hearing to consider action on an ordinance to adopt the Live Ona 2040 Comprehensive Plan for the City of Onalaska. This is ordinance 1798, 2024, and will be addressed later in the meeting under the Judiciary Committee non-consent agenda item 12. At this time, I would like to ask if anyone would like to speak in favor of adopting the Live Ona 2040 Comprehensive Plan. Second call for anyone wishing to speak in favor. Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak in favor of adopting the comprehensive plan. Not seeing or hearing anyone, I'll now open it up for anyone that would like to speak against adopting the Live Ona 2040 Comprehensive Plan. Second call for anyone wishing to speak against. Third and final call for anyone wishing to speak against this comprehensive plan. Not seeing or hearing any, I will now declare the public hearing closed, and we'll take action on this later on in the agenda this evening. Item 6 is a report from the mayor. I have 2 proclamations this evening. The first is regarding White Cane Safety Day. I don't always read these out loud at the meeting, but I think I would like to tonight just to help raise awareness of people who may be visually impaired in our community. So the city of Onalaska, this is a mayoral proclamation regarding declaring October 15th, 2024 as White Cane Safety Day. Whereas on October 6, 1964, the United States Congress designated October 15th of each year as White Cane Safety Day. And whereas blindness and severe visual impairment affects approximately 109,000 Wisconsin residents, and whereas the majority of these persons use travel aids such as a white cane or a service animal to get around public streets and sidewalks and places of public accommodation. And whereas these travel aids are universally recognized as symbols representing vision loss, and whereas Wisconsin's white cane law requires that motorists come to a full stop before approaching closer than 10 feet to a pedestrian who is using a white cane or a service animal. And whereas greater awareness of the white cane law leads to safer, more attentive driving in general, enhancing the safety of all pedestrians, including children, elders, and people with disabilities. And whereas communities have the opportunity to implement many proven features to enhance safety for all pedestrians, including sidewalks, accessible pedestrian signals, and curb ramps. So now therefore, as mayor of the city of Onalaska, I do hereby proclaim October 15th, 2024 as White Cane Safety Day in Onalaska, and also acknowledge the importance of pedestrian safety all year round. That was my first proclamation. My second proclamation, I'm not going to read into the record, but I did share this recently at the Hmong New Year celebration. I was honored to participate in the opening ceremonies for the Hmong New Year celebration and to share and learn more about their culture. So thank you for that to the local Hmong community. Okay, next item, recommendation for approval and or possible action from the following committees, commissions, boards, or officials. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member requests removal, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in the order of business in the non-consent agenda. Are there any items the councilors would like removed from the consent agenda?
Your Honor, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor by Alder Dan Stevens. It's been seconded by Alder Larry Jurassic to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The consent agenda has passed unanimously. With that, we'll move on to the non-consent agenda. The first item, number 7, is a recap of items pulled from the consent agenda. There were none. Item 8 is the Finance Committee. I will reference over to Sean McAllister as the Finance and Personnel Chair for this item.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers tonight in the amount of $2,791,187.31.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Sean McAllister. It's been seconded by Mike Milky to approve the vouchers as described. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 10, Administrative Committee, Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. For number 10, it's 9A in our packet since we've had an amended agenda. A change of agent to the Class A liquor license for Quick Trip number 494 2800 Abbey Road, Onalaska, to Alex Hawley. We did not meet as administrative and judiciary meeting or committee last week due to lack of items. But I will make a motion, or I move that we do approve item 10A as per our agenda packet.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Wolf. It's been seconded by Sean McAllister to approve. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 11, Judiciary Committee. I'll turn it over to Alder Naughton.
This is for ordinance 1798-2024 to adopt the Live ONA 2040 comprehensive plan on the city of Onalaska. This comprehensive plan did pass by a majority vote out of the Plan Commission and also followed a public hearing on October 8th of 2024 as well. And I move to go ahead and approve the ordinance 1798-2024.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Knott. It's been seconded by Alder McAllister. Is there any discussion? Okay, not seeing any discussion. Please answer when your name is called.
Sean McAllister,
Yes.
Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Stephen Knott,
Aye.
Mike Milky,
Aye.
Larry Jurassic,
Aye.
Diane Wolf.
Aye.
Thank you. That voting was unanimous and the ordinance has passed. Congratulations. Yay. It's like a year-long process, ends in just seconds of 3 sentences of vote and it's done.
We can debate it more if it makes you feel better.
Well, I feel like some of us are happy. Okay, item 12, Public Works and Utilities. Alder Knott. Oh.
Yes, this is item number 12. It's listed as item number 11A in your packet on page 13. But with the amended agenda, it is actually item number 12. And this is for the Public Service Commission Simplified Rate Case Application. I'll be turning that over to Sabrina.
Thank you. So in your packets is a copy of the public service simplified rate case application. This is a much smaller process than if we did a full rate case. It was recommended by the Board of Public Works that I applied to see if we qualified for the simplified rate case. I apologize, we missed it on the agenda, so that's why you're seeing it on the non-consent. We did qualify for an increase of 5.3%. So I'm looking for a motion to approve this before we would list this in the newspaper. And then essentially we're getting approval to post it, and then we would submit it to the PSC and get final approval at a later date from the PSC.
I'll move to approve the 5.3% increase.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Stephen Knott. It's been seconded by Larry Jurassic to approve the increase as described by our finance director, Sabrina Steger. Is there any discussion? Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. 5.3 versus 4.1. I'm not sure where I just don't see that number. On page,
Number 7.
oh, but see on the
Item
back
7.
page, it talks about, or maybe I'm confusing.
Both rates are listed there. That's where the confusion comes from.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay,
Pardon
so
me, excuse me.
Sabrina, can you clarify what it would
Yes,
be?
Yeah.
Yes, so the rate increase factor is 4.1%. The line 5 divided by line 6, so taking a look at our operating income divided by our net rate base is where you get the 5.3%.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you.
And I think Jared wanted to add a little bit to that as well.
Okay, Alder Stevens?
Just maybe to build on that a little bit, I was also going to ask about the 5.3 versus the 4.1. And then if we look on the flip side of that page and you divide the revised quarterly rate into the existing quarterly rate, they were almost uniformly 4.01. So it seemed like they weren't all aligned the way that I would have expected them to as.
Yes, this form comes directly from the PSC, so 4.1% is the increase that we are going to go forward with, and that's why it's on the next page. But we did qualify up to 5.3% based on, again, the operating income divided by the average net rate base. So I misspoke originally. It's 4.1%.
Right, but if you divide in the back, it's 4.01, which was off by, I mean. At that
I'm
point,
sure
we're
there's
kinda
lots
splitting
of
hairs, but-
roundings. Yeah, I'm sure it's lots of rounding.
Okay, Alder Knott?
What is it? We need to balance the books. Is it 4.1 or
It
5.3?
is 4.1. I misspoke. I apologize.
Then I know I'm voting on my,
Can we just amend it?
all right, sure. I move to amend the increase to 4.1%.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to amend the value to 4.1, made by Stephen Knott, seconded by Dan Stevens. Is there any discussion on that? Okay, let's go ahead and vote on the amendment. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The amendment was unanimous. So now we're back to the original motion, but the number is 4.1. Jared, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to add that with the increase in chemical costs, material costs, project costs, I'd much rather have the rate increases in the simplified rate case is much better than a number of years ago, we did a wall project and we had rate increases that were in the 20% range. So if we can keep up on what we're doing, it just makes it easier for everyone. And I think it keeps us in a better position for when we've got a lot of project bonding we have to do. And this keeps us in a better financial position when those utilities go in for that bonding. So.
Thank you for that, Jared. Anyone else? Alder Jurassic?
Yeah, this rate increase does not affect the people riding, correct?
All right. I didn't hear-
This is related to
Water.
water.
I'm sorry. I thought it was
Yeah.
transportation. Yeah.
Should know.
So no.
I'm sorry.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, the motion on the floor is to move forward with the process that resulted in the 4.1. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 13 is the Public Transit Committee. I'll turn it over to Alder Jurassic for this item.
Thank you, Mayor. I was drafted into this position, so I wasn't there for the meeting, but go ahead and ask to approve 2025 Mutual Transportation Authority agreement between the city of La Crosse and the city of Onalaska. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Larry Jurassic. It's been seconded by Alder Stephen Knott to approve the 2025 Mutual Transit Authority Agreement between La Crosse and Onalaska. Is there any discussion?
Just for clarification, it is the municipal transit.
Oh, what did I say?
Everybody said mutual transit.
Mutual. Oh, sorry. Okay, let the record stand corrected. Okay, Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I just have a couple questions. First of all, I'd like to thank those who provided the additional changes to the contract. They were in red, so I very much appreciate that. Number two, it's not red line, so this must have happened before, but I just don't remember it, and so I don't know who wants to address it. So on page 15 of our packet, number 3, about approved bus stop signage shall be located at each bus stop. So the city will also be responsible for the purchase and maintenance of any bus stop, shelters, benches, or phone station. So we've always done that in the past.
Sabrina Steger?
Yes, that's always been the case. That's always been part of,
Okay.
those are owned by the city.
Okay, I just didn't remember.
Yeah.
And lastly, my last question is on bottom of page 19. I just want to confirm that the amount is the amount that's in the box, the 53,103. That is going to be our Onalaska local share estimate.
That is correct.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, so the motion to approve is on the floor. Is there any further discussion?
A quick question. We don't have anybody else we could even partner with for this, correct?
That is correct.
Yep.
And this typically, I would have taken this to the Public Transit Committee, but they only meet quarterly. And we needed to get this agreement signed and moved forward.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Okay, the motion is to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Back to you, Larry.
Thank you, Chair. We have a resolution 28, 2024 to approve the contract with Share Ride Taxi program for the city of Onalaska. Sabrina?
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Larry Jurassic. It's been seconded by Alder Dan Stevens. Is there any discussion? Sabrina?
Thank you. I would just add, this is a standard resolution, something we have to do every year to set our new contract rate for the next budget cycle. It is kind of driven by the state. So they tell us what we have to increase our rates by. So you'll see that in the supporting documentations in your packets.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? Motion on the floor is to approve this resolution. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 14 is the city administrator report. With that said, I'll turn the meeting over to the city administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. Normally I hand out my report just before council. When I got in here, there was a full house, so I can provide a copy to anybody who would like a written copy. But contained in that report, so I have been updating you periodically in regards to the RFPs that are going on within the city. Conversations continue regarding the new ERP system. We're just kind of looking at some final details before coming forward in November with a proposal on that. And then the fire department study continues as well too. Staff have been meeting with the architects who are taking a look at that, and they providing information. And so that will be ongoing through the end of the year and into the early next year is my understanding. Community center project, if you haven't been by it recently, is well on its way. The old building has been torn down, and my understanding is that the footings have been poured so far. And so that continues. to move forward. I do try to post photos of the progress each week in the weekly update. So I'll try to continue to do that each week as well. As everybody is aware, the November election is just around the corner. Staff have been meeting periodically just to make sure that we have everything where we need it to be. I've been speaking with Joanne. It's anticipated that this will be probably the largest turnout for an election to date so far. So it's going to be a busy day. And I think, as you also know, there is also absentee voting in chambers periodically also prior to the election. So that's coming up as well. Open enrollment is currently going on with city staff. That goes through October 25th. There was an informational session held yesterday and today for staff. So again, that's just something that is currently ongoing. Also just updating regarding staff trainings. I had mentioned previously that these were going to be happening. It's the CPR and AED training, as well as the Stop the Bleed trainings. Those are being conducted by our fire department staff for city staff, as well as in each suite. Obviously, the CPR, AED, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Stop the Bleed is a training where there are kits that are going to be located in each suite, as well as vehicles, city vehicles, in regards to any time that there might be a situation where excessive bleeding is occurring, and ways that you can help prevent or control that bleeding until help arrives. So I was able to participate in both trainings, and I thought they were both very, very useful. So thank you for that. And planning for our Staff Success Day on November 11th continues. We do have our 3 speakers all lined up and ready to go. The topics for the 3 speakers are, one of them is on developing your best self. Another is on culture starts with you. And then another on dealing with stress management. So those are our speakers. We'll have other activities throughout the day that are planned as well. So and just an update on any unsheltered population conversations. Staff continue to monitor any activities throughout the city. Nothing that has come that's been urgent at the moment. Obviously, we are monitoring the recent activity this week where an encampment was cleared out. So we're just monitoring the situation, but there's nothing new to report at this point in time. So previously, I had reported that I had submitted a WCMA is an organization that I belong to, and a few months ago, along with Explore Lacrosse, had submitted a proposal to bring 1 or 2 of the conferences here to the city of Onalaska. So we have made the cut for the first round. So they're doing a site visit in early November. And so hopefully after that, we'll get some notification that we will be hosting that conference sometime in 26 or 27. Otherwise, that is just the meetings and events from the last period. So thank you.
Yeah, you can just go ahead and continue.
Keep on going. Okay, sounds good. Just get my notes here.
Unless you want us to vote on it.
Say that again?
Unless you want us to vote on it.
Oh, no voting necessary right now. So unless you want to. So no, I'm just kidding. So in front of you is the binders for the 2025 operating budget. And so I'm happy to report that it is a balanced budget. And so tonight is a presentation to you of that. And obviously over the next few weeks, you'll be looking at that, and then we'll be talking about what the next steps are here shortly. It was a challenge to get to a balanced budget as we started with a deficit of over $100,000. But through the work with the departments and just going through everything, we were able to get it down to be a balanced budget. Of course, much of the increases are due to inflationary costs on goods and services. Again, it's nothing new. You hear that year after year. Thankfully, last year there was the shared revenue change, which did provide some temporary relief. Unfortunately, it was temporary. And so we are kind of, again, back to a situation where we have to take a look at it each year. But despite the deficit, there were some initiatives that were incorporated into the budget. So I'm just going to briefly touch on a couple of those that were in there. So probably the main ones were converting the human resources administrative assistant position from a part-time LTE to a regular part-time employee at 20 hours a week, increasing the hours of the administrative assistant emergency operations assistant position in the fire department from 25 to 30 hours a week, converting the administrative specialist position in the police department from part-time LTE to a regular part-time employee at 20 hours a week, and then adjusting the seasonal part-time employee wage scale in Parks and Recreation. So those were some of the notable ones that I wanted to start out with. Wages citywide continued to be a topic of conversation. And so that is something that is also on ongoing discussion. In 2024, you may recall, the council approved a 2% increase in January and a 4% increase in July for unrepresented individuals. In 2024, both police and fire saw a 1.5% increase in January and a 1.5 increase in July. In 2025, the proposed budget does include a 1.5% increase for non-represented employees in January and another 1.5% in July. In 2025, pursuant to the fire contract, it is scheduled for a 1.5% in January and a 1.5% in July. And also in the police contract for 2025, contract calls for a 1.5% in January and a 1.5% in July. There will be some discussion a little bit later on in the agenda regarding some change to that 1.5% in July under the police, for the police department. Just a couple of other items I just wanted to point out as well too. So a few months ago, La Crosse County Health Department had reached out to the mayor and I in regards to our Sharps boxes in the city of Onalaska. There are apparently 8 of them across the county, La Crosse County, 2 of them located in the city of Onalaska. And they were requesting assistance in helping to maintain or service those boxes. So there is a provision in the budget for $2,000. It's approximately $1,000 per Sharps box to assist in offsetting that cost for La Crosse County. There were some changes at the medical level of changeover employees where the cost is no longer absorbed by another organization. And so that's why they were just reaching out. So that is one thing that was added there. It's under my other contractual services because we couldn't find a real good place to put it. So just an FYI, if you see it there, it's there just because we couldn't find another good place to put it. Also, a membership for the La Crosse Area Chamber of Commerce is listed in there as well at the $1,500 level. So that is also included in there. And then you probably remember earlier this year, I had requested $15,000 for some training throughout the city, citywide training. So in the budget for 2025, let me back up a little bit. Of that 15,000, 3,000 was specifically for Staff Success Day and 5,000 was for citywide training. I did put in 2,000 for citywide training for 2025 and the 3,000 again for Staff Success Day. So those were items that weren't in the original budget last year, but were added later on. So in case there's any question as to where those numbers, the increase in the numbers came from. So again, that is the proposed budget. It is now turned over to council to take a look at it, and which kind of leads us into the next item on the agenda. Just gonna bring that back up here, which is setting the budget hearing. It is being proposed that it be scheduled for Monday, November 11th at 6 p.m. And I guess any input or feedback as to how that date works for everybody. It would be a typical date that we do the night before common council meeting. So that's kind of lines up with that common council being on Tuesday.
Motion to approve the 2025 budget hearing for Monday, November 11th, 2024 at 6:00 p.m.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Wolf. It's been seconded by Alder Knott to set the budget hearing for Monday, November 11th at 6 p.m. Is there any discussion? Yes, Alder Stevens.
I'm looking at my calendar and I see that that's Veterans Day. Is City Hall open that day?
It's city staff day.
We are actually closed, but only because of that's our staff training day. Otherwise, normally we would be open on that day.
I mean, I'm open to it. I just
Mhm.
want to make sure we'll all be able to get into the building.
Sure.
So,
Okay, any other comments or questions about that date or concerns with the date? Okay, not seeing or hearing then, all those in favor of this date of November 11th at 6 p.m., please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, that is the date we will move forward with. Okay, and then item D, we need to set the Special Finance and Personnel Committee. So this will be a meeting that the Finance and Personnel will be the voting members, but generally we expect the whole entire council to be present. So they have a full understanding of the budget. And they're looking at November 7th and 8th. Do we want to have a little discussion before? Go ahead, Rick.
Sure. I can provide some background on that. So we had some discussion amongst department heads in regards to availability for the date for this meeting. Typically, I think we set 2 dates in case we do need the second date as well. Based on availability of staff and department heads in particular, as well as the absentee voting that's going to be occurring periodically here in chambers. Was it 2 weeks prior to the election, I believe it is. These two dates are the ones that were most readily available for all of the department head and staff to be present for. Certainly the earlier in the day that we could start this, the better. I know it was thrown out that we start at 1 p.m. or as soon thereafter as we can get started, depending on how long any particular one of those meetings lasts, and then see if we can accomplish it all in one day. But that's the background in regards to how those two particular dates were arrived at, was availability of staff.
Okay, so is there anybody that these two dates don't work for? And then once we can agree on the date, then maybe we can talk about the time. Okay, so I feel a consensus over these 2 days. Again, if we get done on Thursday, we don't have to meet on Friday, but we'll schedule both meetings. So what is the consensus for the earliest time we could start on Thursday that would be workable for everyone? Alder Wolf?
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, I personally would prefer to defer to the three F&P members for their availability. But if there's any wiggle room on the 1 o'clock start time, if it was just a week later, I would ask respectfully that it be considered. Thank you.
So 2 o'clock?
I'll take anything.
Does that work for you then, Rick?
2 o'clock, yeah, that would work for all the department heads and staff that would like to attend, yes.
Alder Stevens?
I was going to propose 3 o'clock. I know some of us still have day duties that we need to worry about. But Friday in the early afternoon, if we do that, that would be a little bit more difficult. So if we do Friday, I would actually prefer that start later. So maybe 2:30 or 3 on Thursday,
Thursday.
on the 7th, and then start a little bit later. Hopefully we don't need the second day, but if we do, that's a little easier to go later if you're going into the weekend.
What if
Maybe not preferable, but
what if we do 3 o'clock both days just to keep it simpler? Alder Wolf?
Thank you, Your Honor. And I think too, especially if we start at 3 o'clock on Thursday, unless there's some major catastrophe, I think we have to also keep in mind that we also have a balanced budget, which is also very helpful. So that helps the situation. But it's a lot easier to start at 3 o'clock and have high hopes and expectations that we'll finish for the evening versus when we start at 5:30 or 6 o'clock and we're banging our heads against the wall at 11 p.m. and we're all tired. So I'm very hopeful that I don't mean to hex us, but I think we'll be able to punch it out one day, but certainly keep that second day in reserve. But I think if we start 2.5 hours earlier, we'll be a lot fresher. And at the end of the day, we also have to remember that between those people who are working full time and need to come here and also people who are here 7 or 8 or whatever time that you get here in the morning, it's an awfully long day for them to also have to come back at 5:30 and start the grind of doing budget. And last year was a really long, or maybe it was the year before, but we've had some long nights. So I certainly support the little bit earlier start time. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm hearing kind of a consensus if we do 3 o'clock on both days. Do we need a motion for that?
Believe you would
For
make
that
a motion
one?
to approve
Okay,
it, correct?
so-
I move that we set the Finance and Personnel Committee special budget meetings for Thursday, November 7th, 2024, and Friday, November 8th, 2024 at 3 p.m. each day.
Second.
Okay, the motion is made by Alder Diane Wolf. It's been seconded by Alder Larry Jurassic to set the F&P special meeting as described. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 15 is closed session. This is to consider a motion to convene in closed session under section 1985C of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically compensation, recruitment, training, and retention challenges in the police department. If any action is required in open session as a result of the closed session, the council will reconvene in open session to take the necessary action and or continue on with the printed agenda. And also number 16, Discussion and approval of resolution 29-2024 to amend the budget for the purpose of providing sworn officer retention incentive. And 17 letters of understanding, A, B, and C. D, Onalaska Sword, 2025 wage change. E, the OPPA vacation holiday and personal day carryover payout. F, Onalaska Supervisor, the Sword Field Training Officer. And item 18, closed session, to consider a motion to convene in closed session under section 1985G of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved, potential enforcement action regarding Camping World Coachman flag, ethics, potential conflict of interest with Camping World. If any action is required in the open session as a result of the closed session, the council will reconvene in open session to take the necessary action and or continue on with the printed agenda. Before we do that, Amanda, did I do that incorrectly? We're going to do those all separately. I messed up.
It's okay. You're just gonna have to read it all again later. So we're gonna go into closed session.
Yes.
Out of closed session,
Yes.
back into open for a while, and then back into closed session.
Yes, I'm so sorry for that. I got ahead of myself and I kind of realized it when I got to 16. So what we're gonna do is go into closed session to deal with item 15. And then we'll come out of closed session and do the other ones. So I apologize for that. That is 100% my mistake.
I think you should start over
Um,
from the beginning.
I don't know. Do I have to read 15 again? Okay, so this closed session item is only regarding number 15. Okay, so if someone would like.
Your Honor, I'll move we go to closed session.
Second.
So we have a motion on the floor by Mike Milky. It's been seconded by Stephen Knott to go into closed session as described in item 15. Please answer when your name is called.
Mike Milky,
Aye.
Sean McAllister,
Aye.
Larry Jurassic,
Aye.
Diane Wolf,
Aye.
Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Stephen Knott.
Aye.
Thank you. That was unanimous. We are in closed session. The time is 7:57. Okay. Gotta wait for
I think she
Sabrina.
went to get Joanne.
Okay, we are back in open session. We are on item 16, discussion and approval of resolution 29-2024 to amend the budget for the purpose of providing sworn officer retention incentive. We'll turn this over to Chief Ashbeck to provide an introduction to this item for us.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, so as we I briefed you in closed session, essentially we are bringing this resolution forward as a solution. Our department is in a critical staffing shortages due to several factors, both statewide and regionally, as far as attracting quality candidates and staying competitive with contracts and area agencies. And so we feel that it is extremely important for multiple reasons that we stay competitive and we retain our experienced quality officers serving our community for a multitude of reasons. And then also attract quality candidates when we do have somebody that retires and have an opening. So we're proposing tonight this resolution as a retention incentive. And part of that is I had presented to you wage comparisons for comparables and how you'll notice that a large percentage of area communities are multiple dollars ahead of our officers' wages at various levels of years of service. And so what we're asking is to try to, again, be competitive and get this retention incentive in place here moving forward. This will help with morale, which has been an issue, given the amount of overtime, bumping of shifts, moving around of staff, working long hours, all of those things that have contributed to those frustrations, and rightly so. So we're trying to mitigate that and move forward. Do you have any questions?
Could you maybe describe the bonus?
Sure. So what we're asking is that any officer on the department, full-time officer in good standing as of December 1st will receive a $5,000 retention incentive that will be payable at the first payroll, which I believe is December 13th of 2024.
Okay, counselors, Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. Amanda, I'm assuming that you'd like to have a motion on the floor before I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I will move to approve resolution number 29-2024, and I reserve my time. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Wolf. It's been seconded by Alder Stevens to approve resolution 29-2024. And we'll take it back to Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I have a few questions. One is, what is the definition of an officer in good standing?
I would say that is an officer that is on active duty for our department, available for shifts. No, I shouldn't say that, I guess we have not defined.
It's an officer that has all of their credentials in place and that is employed by the city,
Thank you.
basically everybody.
So is that someone who is, because once someone has been, once they pass the academy, do they then come in, they're sworn in, and then they're not sworn in yet?
They're sworn in before the academy.
I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Before the academy. So now they are a sworn in officer, but now they're going to the academy. So would this also apply to the ones who have not even been on the street yet?
Correct. I mean, they will be in field training, so they will be on the street.
Because this isn't paid out until December.
Okay. But some of them won't be out on the street until March and beyond.
Out on their own, you mean?
Right, right. Actually boots on the ground, driving a car. Okay.
Correct.
Don't they have to pass some type of probationary period?
Correct. But we also don't want to lose any of them.
I understand, but
either. Yep.
I'm just asking questions.
Yep. Nope.
So there's going to be some hard questions, there's going to be some pointed, and this is just the beginning. So
Yep.
forgive me. I'm looking, when we talk about, I know there's a definition. We were talking about $5,000 retention incentive to its law enforcement officers. We quoted a number of 31, and that doesn't include the chief and the assistant chief?
It does include the chief and the assistant chief.
It does.
Yes.
I'm still processing how I feel about that, only because we have 10 department heads in this building. We have a city administrator, and they are all,
No, keep going.
oh, okay. I didn't know if I was like, ooh, out of order. My concern is that, not to take away from anything you or Assistant Chief Berg have done to date during all of this. But my concern is we have 10 total department heads, and I think about all the hours that they put in for overtime. So I have a concern. So I'm still processing that.
Okay, I just wanted to respond to that. The chief did not ask to be included. That was essentially my and Rick's decision, in discussions with this. The chief did ask that Assistant Chief Berg be included in this. But this impacts the entire department. I mean, the strain and the stress that they are on has an impact all the way from the top up to the bottom down. And so it was felt that if we were going to compensate any officers, we should compensate all officers. And so we did include that for discussion purposes,
Okay,
to include the entire department.
okay, thank you. And I don't know if we did that before, but I just had a concern about that. I think that, let me just look one more time. That is all I have right now. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, we'll come over this way. Alder Stevens?
Thank you, Your Honor. So Chief, if I heard you correctly, we'd be looking to pay a bonus to officers on record on December 1st, and then it'll be payable on December 13th, right?
Correct.
So is there like a surrender mechanism, or is there anything that would stop an officer from leaving then on December 14th?
Theoretically, no. We discussed that and we felt that by attaching strings to it, it minimized what we're attempting to do as far as, I guess, a good faith retention and recognition of all of the hard work they've done over this past year at a lower wage than comparable agencies.
I guess my thought is that, you know, I understand there's a problem and we're frankly just trying to head off a crisis, but if we're going to allocate resources towards that end, I mean, I want to make sure that it's effective and that we're solving the goal or at least addressing the problem, not just, this just kind of feels like it's hunting a few months. So if there was to be an incentive program, I mean, I would want those resources to give me some sort of idea that that incentive would carry a little bit more weight where we would expect the officer to be around a little bit longer. So I guess that's strings attached, but I mean, that's my comfort level. I don't know how the rest of council feels. So that's my thought for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, I think you were next.
Yeah, my question was basically, is there any kind of stay requirement? So is it really similar to exactly what Dan was just asking? I'm just curious. That's all I have. Thank you, Your Honor.
Any kind of a what requirement?
I guess I call it a stay requirement. I don't know what you would
Right.
consider it. But strings attached essentially is what I was wondering about.
Well, I mean, just to partially answer the question, it's something that we're theoretically or potentially determining now for a payout in the future.
Okay.
So I mean, that is in a way.
Yeah.
Distancing it. Okay, let's see. Larry Jurassic.
Thank you, Chair. The question I have is, this could be a one-time offer?
Correct.
All right, Alder Not, and then Sean, you'll be next.
So, and this is gonna get me potentially, I guess, some stress between maybe some of the other staff members, but as far as you know, basically what I was hearing, maybe some of the what about me-isms. Look, first responders fall into a different category. I mean, this is like hazardous duty pay for these folks. First responders have a situation where when their family says goodbye to them in the morning, they are not 100% sure, far less sure than most other people that their loved one is going to come back uninjured and safe. Because what they do is dangerous, and they see accidents and crime scenes that are unsanitized. All right, the nasty, dirty, bloody piece that nobody else in society sees. To include, you know, the portions of society that are, you know, more despondent and even in some cases outright evil, things that you and I thankfully don't have to do on a day-to-day basis. So every one of our staff members is important, but at the same time, look, first responders fall into
a unique category, that they are volunteering to do a job that nationwide has much higher levels of depression and suicide rates than the society as a whole. That's just a fact. It's quite a bit been written on that, actually. So that portion of this discussion, at least in my personal view, doesn't hold any water. The whataboutism piece. This is a question about what are we going to do to address this situation that's before us right now?
Thank you for that, Alder Knott. Sean, did you want to say anything? Okay, we go to Rick or Sabrina. Would one of you like to speak? Maybe Sabrina can walk us through how we're going to fund this theoretically.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So as it's stated in the resolution, my recommendation would be for the 2024 budget, we did budget $80,000 for sick leave payout because we knew there was going to be some retirements in the police department. So we had a little extra shared revenue last year, and I begged and pleaded with Amanda and Rick that we be able to set some money aside for those payouts, knowing that that was going to happen. I also budgeted those positions for 2024 for the whole year. Well, a lot of those positions, as it's been stated, have not even started fully yet with the city. So between wages and overtime is up quite a bit from 2023. But between those two, I think we'll come fairly close in regards to budgeted wages, where that $80,000 would be available to use for a portion of this payout. So that would be my recommendation, that we would use that $80,000, and that the additional $75,000 would come from our interest income is up for 2024 as well, that we would use some of that money that we've been able to put aside in reserves, that we've been able to earn great interest on in 2024 to cover the additional cost.
Thank you for that, Sabrina. Rick, did you want to add anything? And then we'll see if Chief wants to add anything, and then we'll come back to the council.
Sure. And I just wanted to add that I think everything that council has asked or made comments in regards to are all things that we talked about when we met and discussed what might be an option we can move forward with. This is ultimately where we landed with this particular provision, taking into consideration all of the things that have been set up there. So I do want you to know that we did have these conversations. We did go through all the different items that you're talking about, and this is kind of where we landed with this particular provision.
Thank you for that, Rick. Chief, did you want to add anything else before I go back to the counselors?
I don't have any further comments. Thank you, though.
Okay, counselors, do you have any other questions or comments before we vote? Alder Jurassic.
Thank you, Chair. Chief, you had mentioned earlier about officers having to extend their call. So if they're on for an 8-hour shift, how much are they doing another 8-hour shift?
So their shifts are 8.5 hours, and they can be, like, if someone calls in sick for the following shift and no one volunteers, they can be held over for an additional 4.25 hours to, for that half a shift essentially. So they'll be here for 12 and, well, could be up to 12 3/4 hours.
Because after 12 hours, your mind kind of wanders anyways. So.
It's not ideal.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other counselors have any questions or comments?
When is the next contract up?
The end of 2025.
Joanne, when we vote, I'm going to do it by roll call, just for a heads up. Okay, not seeing anyone else.
Your Honor, I want to just pose to the council, is there any appetite for restructuring like the timing of the payout, or maybe breaking it apart? So there's some payout on December 13th and then another portion at a later time. If there's not, I'll drop it, but.
Hey, Sabrina?
As Rick mentioned, we did talk about this as a group, and for budget purposes, we could budget for it for 2024. So that would be my recommendation, that it would be completed in 2024.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to Amanda Jackson first and then Alder Wolf second.
I just wanted to follow up on something Rick said. This was an item we talked about extensively. In fact, the first iteration of the resolution did have a requirement that they stay through March. Because that is when, you know, we will get our next set of officers through FTO and on the road. And I think that it fundamentally came down to the idea that we can force people to stay through an incentive, or we can create goodwill in which they will want to stay. And we felt that by doing it this way, we were hoping to create a situation in which we were offering goodwill and a department that they would want to stay at, as opposed to no matter what deadline you put, if you put a requirement to stay, anybody could leave the minute that deadline is up. And so I think it was just sort of our viewpoint that we wanted this to be a positive thing, an act of goodwill, and a step towards solving what is a crucial problem in our city right now.
Thank you for that, Amanda. Alder Wolf?
Thank you, Your Honor. So, following up on Alder Stevens' input, I'm not to put words in his mouth, but I'm thinking that he's probably thinking of the past experience when we did offer the $5,000 and someone left immediately thereafter, and it kind of left a bad taste. So I certainly understand, at least that's my remembrance, and left some bad feelings, but I certainly understand administration coming forward and talking about it being a goodwill. And I do believe that, you know, we're at that dire point right now. Do you feel comfortable talking about the possibility of having to contract? Or do we not want to have that discussion? I'll leave it up to you.
Well, I would just say that if we continue to lose staff, we are going to have to take drastic measures, and we have a few ideas to do that, but that is going to, I think, create a situation where the services rendered for our schools, for our community in general, they're going to get a lower quality of service, and one that our citizens are not going to be pleased with. And so I would fight every day to keep our existing staff, retain them.
And I certainly don't mean to speak for anyone up here, but I think, I know where I'm coming from, and I think I probably have a lot of support on this, is that at the end of the day, I think we're just, you know, we want to do something, but what will get, what is the mechanism that's going to be productive to give us the positive result that we need? And I'm not sure if this is it, to what extent. One thing I want to follow up with Finance Director Sabrina Steger would be, Sabrina, you said that you talked about 2024, but if I went between the lines, you would prefer to do it in 2024, but we could do 2025 also and split it if we had to, or if that's what council ended up voting for.
If that is your intent, you would have to find it in the 2025 budget, because it is not currently in there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Your Honor.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to approve. I have heard from 3 of the counselors. Larry is one of them. Do any of the other counselors want to have any more comment? Mike? Okay, Larry, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Question I have, you said the officer has to be on board at the time. So this could not be used to poach some other officer as a incentive to come and work for you, or not?
Currently, not the way it's structured.
Okay.
So that could be something explored down the road or in the next contract, but not currently how this resolution is worded.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve. Please vote when your name.
I'd like to make the motion to amend.
Okay,
It's not going to be popular, but it's something I apologize in advance, chief, but this is nothing personal, but it's about when we talk about budget and all that, it's always about the position and not the person. And that's where I'm coming from. I just come back from department heads. I struggle with this, but I would amend the motion that it would be the $5,000 payout would be to the 30 sworn officers with the exception of removing our police chief.
Motion has been made by Alder Wolf to remove the police chief from the incentive as described. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion has been made by Alder Wolf, seconded by Larry Jurassic, now open for discussion. Is there any discussion? Mike Milky.
Thank you, Your Honor. As mentioned, this has not only affected our officers, it's affected our chief and our assistant chief. In my opinion, I think it's the wrong thing to do to take it away from somebody who's leading this workforce. And that's where I stand with that.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Alder Knott.
Yeah, so every one of the sworn officers in the police department carries a firearm for a reason. I don't know that I can support that. Our police chief is not immune to some of the issues I brought up in my previous comments.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I ask for a roll call.
No, not seeing or hearing any other discussion. The motion on the floor is to remove the chief from the incentive. So a yes vote means that would happen. Go ahead, Joanne.
Sean McAllister, No. Dan Stevens,
Hey.
Stephen Knott,
No.
Mike Milky,
No.
Larry Jurassic,
No.
Diane Wolf.
Okay, motion fails. So now we're back to the original motion, which is to approve resolution 29-24 as described. Are we done discussing this? Okay, we'll move on to another roll call vote. So a yes vote will approve the resolution 29-2024 as presented. Go ahead, Joanne.
Stephen Knott,
Aye.
Mike Milky,
Aye.
Larry Jurassic,
Aye.
Diane Wolf,
Aye.
Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Sean McAllister. Aye.
That voting was unanimous. Resolution 29-2024 has been approved. Item 17 is letters of understanding. Chief, you want to introduce this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I don't have the agenda in front of me, but I believe the wage.
The
Wage
first,
is first?
the OPA one is first.
Okay, oh, the letter of retention. So essentially that letter of retention mirrors the resolution that you just passed. So I don't know if there's really any further explanation that needs to happen on that one. I'll move on to the next if you're okay, or do you want to go in individually?
Did,
A
I
vote
thought we
on.
had to take, we were going to take them individually, right?
Correct. I think if you wanted, with A and B, you could take them together. It's
Okay.
essentially the same thing, just one for each union.
Okay, so does anyone have any questions on items A or B?
Move to approve items A and B, the letters of retention to the Onalaska Professional Police Association and the Onalaska Supervisors
Second.
Officers Relations Division.
Second.
Thank you. So motion was by Stephen Knott. The second was by Diane Wolf to approve the letters of retention for the two unions regarding the resolution that we just passed. Is there any discussion on that item? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, item C is the Onalaska Professional Police Association 2025 wage change. I'm not sure who wants to introduce that one, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so essentially looking at continuing retention essentially, or trying to stay competitive into next year, we felt that one thing we could do is move the July 1.5% up to the January 1st timeframe, essentially making it a 3% raise at the beginning of the year. Throughout the whole year, there would not be a July raise then essentially. So that's what this letter of understanding details out.
Okay, Rick, did you want to comment on this?
See, I think the next two of them, I think, are very similar, just with the different unions. So this is included in the 2025 budget. We didn't need to add anything more to the budget. It was already factored into it with the existing budget as it was. So this is covered by the 2025 budget, moving the 1.5% up to January.
Thank you. Okay, Alder Not.
Just to clarify, would it not still have a budget impact? Because there would be the 6 months that we are now additional that we are now paying it. Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. So my original budget estimate did not include this. But then there were discussions had internally, multiple meetings where it was in Rick's discretion to move this forward as a budgeted item. So it is included in the budget that's before you tonight. So it does have a budget impact,
Right. So,
but it's included. It's included.
addressed in this
Correct.
proposed balanced budget.
There it
Okay,
is, correct.
got it.
Yes. Okay, Chief?
And I would just also point out or refer you back to that wage comparison I handed out earlier as the bottom chart. With this letter of understanding going through, you'll notice, this does make an impact, of course, as compared to other agencies. We're still behind, but it certainly makes a difference when you compare the top to the bottom. So that's why we're advocating. This is something that we should do.
Okay, Alder Not?
So I'm open to it, especially since it's in a proposed balanced budget, but we have not had a chance to look at this budget in its entirety. I'm wondering if this is not something that should be delayed as we go through the entire budget process for 2025, instead of taking this as a one-off. Again, I'm open to it, but I would like to look at the budget as a whole as we go through the normal process.
I think the idea is the chief is presenting this as a package.
Mhm.
And this is part of the package. So what the council chooses to do is at their discretion.
What maybe as a percent or dollar is the total effect of this package to the budget that we will be reviewing soon?
The 1.5, moving the 1.5% from July to January.
Yeah, what's the? I mean, if it's minuscule, then we could probably just give the nod now, but if it's, I understand your point, but
It's 1 month.
yeah, I mean,
I actually, I'll move to refer this to November.
Okay. Items, could you be more specific just for the reason of roll? Oh, 'cause we don't have a motion on the floor right now.
Well, you do now.
Right.
All right, I'm moving to refer the wage change with the moving to going to a full 3% in January to discussions during the entire Onalaska operating budget next month.
Okay, is
I'll
there?
second it.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Stephen Nod. It's been seconded by Larry Jurassic to defer the OPPA and the SWORD 2025 wage change to the following month and included in our budget discussions. Is there any discussion, Sabrina?
You had asked a question earlier about how much it costs. It was around 22,000.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, the motion on the floor then is to delay this conversation. Did you have a question, Amanda?
No, I didn't think we had a second, but we did. Larry Jurassic seconded.
Yep, it was made by Stephen Knott, seconded by Larry Jurassic. Okay, so Mike, you have a question?
Yeah, I guess, thank you, Your Honor. I have more of a comment, I guess. This conversation is spurring from a retention standpoint, a low morale standpoint? Does it, I mean, by pushing this out and waiting for something that's around $22,000, which I'm not saying it's a drop in the bucket, but I mean, is it worth it to, show our good faith still towards our officers in our department? I guess that's kind of my just train of thought that I'd like to put out there for the council to think about.
Thank you. Alder Wolf?
Thank you, Your Honor. I will be voting against the motion to refer. Number one, I appreciate our finance director Steger with coming up with the dollar amount. So now we know what I'd be voting to refer unless I had the dollar amount. Now that I know, plus it's a balanced budget. Number two, since it was passed unanimously, the earlier letter of understandings and resolutions and such is that I think this, if by referring this for a whole nother month, we're diluting, D-I-L-U-T, not diluting what we're trying to do here tonight. Gotta be careful. Anyway, so I will be voting no tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, Alder Knott?
I just want to see this as the whole. I suspect I know how I would vote next month anyway, but we were just handed this
Right.
a couple hours ago, right, when we started the meeting. I haven't looked at page 1.
Right.
So I just would like to see the whole thing to feel more comfortable about the vote. I don't think I'm diluting anything because with the motion, we've given the good faith payment. That's done. This is talking about the wages next year now, which again, I'm open to it when I hear the dollars amount. I'm open to it. But I just think that doing these things one-off, when it's not going to make one iota of a difference, if we wait next month and determine that we can do this, they still get the payment on the same day. They're not getting this money any earlier by us voting today.
Okay. All right. Okay, so the motion on the floor is to include the wage change, 2025 wage change conversation with the budget talk beginning next month would be a yes vote. So let's do a roll call just for the record, and then I won't be confused.
Diane Wolf,
Nay.
Dan Stevens,
Hey.
Stephen Knott,
Yes.
Sean McAllister,
Nay.
Larry Jurassic,
Yay.
Mike Milky.
Nay.
Okay, so that motion fails with a vote of 4-2. Would somebody like to make a different motion?
Motion to approve the letter of understanding in our packet, items 16E and 16. Oh, wait a minute, hold on.
It's D and E.
I know it changed with the,
It's C and D.
yeah.
E and D.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. It's then when you amend it twice and then everything shifts, sorry. So I move to approve the letter of understanding for items 16C and 16D in our packet this evening.
Is it 17?
It's item 17.
C and D.
Oh, my gosh. I'm
D.
sorry.
Yeah, it's different than what's in the packet because of the.
If you're in the
have to change it.
text of the.
Well, I said as per the packet.
For the record, the motion is to approve the letter of understanding for the OPPA 2025 wage change and the Officer Supervisor Officer Relations Division SWORD 2025 wage change.
Thank you. So the motion has been made by Alder Wolf. Was there a second?
I seconded.
Dan Stevens has seconded. Okay, now we're under discussion. So for clarity of the record, what this motion does is it moves the 1.5% increase from July to January. So the officers will receive a 3% increase in January. For clarity, it's no confusion. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. Okay, item E, Onalaska OPPA vacation holiday personal day carryover payout. Chief, did you want to comment on this?
Thank you, Mayor. So essentially, administration and evaluating the schedule, as we get closer to the end of the year, we've determined there are
staff that still have unused benefit time, i.e. vacation, holiday, personal time. And due to our staffing shortages, it's become increasingly difficult to even get time off because we're at minimum staffing all of the time. So recognizing that, we realized, the last thing we want to do is have officers lose benefit time because we've denied their time. So we didn't think that was fair. So we drafted this letter of understanding, giving them the option that they could carry over up to 5 days into next year to be used or be paid out, because we also felt that if they decided they preferred to get paid out, that would be additional staff back on the road, and that is a great thing. And so there is some incentive, it's a win-win for all of us. And so that's, and this is just for the OPPBA, not sword union.
Okay, thank you for that. Counselors?
I move to approve item 17E per our agenda, 16E per our packet, the Onalaska Professional Police Association OPPA Vacation Holiday Personnel Day Carryover Payout, and I reserve my time.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Diane Wolf. It's been seconded by Alder Mike Milky. Under discussion, we'll start with Diane.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I will support this evening. I don't look at this any differently than what we did when we had COVID, and there were people in these four walls, that those people who were forward facing to the public, for example, like the clerk suite, finance suite, they had to be here. There were a number of employees who were able to work from home, but there were employees who had to be here due to the nature of their job simply. And they were not able to take their earned vacation and their various time that they had coming to them. So at that time, administration came to council and we said, yes, if they could carry over whatever situation we dealt. I look at this as being very similar, and I will be supporting that this evening. My only concern I have, though, is for our finance director Steger, would be under 17.4A about up to maximum of 5 shifts total carried over paid out. As far as budgeting, is that a concern? It's page 105 of the packet.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's why I really like having the numbers at the bottom. It really helps when you have this big of a packet.
I believe in regards to budget, still between the additional wages savings that we have with hiring new recruits compared to what we had budgeted for, that we'd be fine. We'd still come out budget neutral in regards to wages.
Because a maximum of 5 shifts total earned, that could, do you have a rough guesstimate of what dollar amount that could be if everyone did that?
Well, just remember, this is patrol officers,
Okay,
and we're very limited in those right now.
okay,
You know what I mean? And so it's not across the whole department.
okay.
So
just don't
I
want us
think
to
it'll
go,
be,
oh, we hadn't thought of that.
yeah, I think overall it'll be minimal.
Okay,
But I think it sends a message.
okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Alder Not? Then
So,
we'll come over to your side.
my understanding is if they pay out their 5 days or portion of 5 days, that would have already been included in the 2024 budget anyway, right? Because their leave was accounted for.
Correct.
It's the carryover days. Is that also included in this proposed balanced budget, or is that something different?
That would be for 2024.
Well, no, if they're carrying them over, it would be 5 additional days of leave that have to be paid out in 2025.
That would not be included.
That's not included, but you think that
I don't foresee it being a huge issue in regards to dollars.
Chief, would you like to comment?
Well, I was just gonna say, if they take a carryover a vacation day and use a vacation day in July, that was a day that was budgeted already. And so unless, we wouldn't give them off and bring someone in overtime, they'd only be allowed off if there was staffing. So essentially I think it's already.
it's just in the year that it's being paid is the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, Alder Wolf, and then
Thank you, Your Honor. So, and I believe in item C, it talks about what, well, in B, there's very specific timetables that you set up where they have to go ahead and apply to Assistant Chief Berg and the form and by a certain date, and the officer, item B, paragraph B, officers who would like to be paid out for unused benefit time would receive compensation on the first payroll of December 2024. And then if they don't, then it ends up being lost after December 31st.
Yes, if they fail to indicate that on that form by November 1st, and then they can't use it because we're at minimum staffing, then they would lose it as per the current contract. That's how it's worded, is they would lose it if they don't use it. So that's not anything different, but that's why essentially it'd be very important for them to indicate it on the form. That way they have the option.
Yeah, that
Thank
would
you.
be terrible. Okay, Alder Stevens?
So we have, I also plan on supporting this. I mean, I think we have our patrol officers in a position where if they either have to burn their PTO or we have less police coverage, or, Onalaska is literally a little less safer at those times. That's not a position that I want to put our officers in. So my preference is that, especially after going after long periods of, being on all the time, that they would actually just take the PTO next year. But I'm not certain that even with the actions that we're taking here tonight, that we're going to be out of the woods next year. I mean, it'll be better when we get the people through the academy and through field training. But I mean, we may be in a position where they have to take the cash option unless we are certain this problem is going to be fixed. So I'd almost give them some leniency on deciding if they're going to take the PTO or the be paid out. Chief, do you have thoughts on, like, do you think what we're doing is going to be enough? Or are we just kind of punting this problem down for next year?
Are you
And if
referring-
we're as tight as what my understanding is, can we afford to have all these officers have an extra week off next year?
Well, for one, I don't think that will be the case, given what people have already used this year. It's not like they're holding on to 3 weeks of vacation unused yet. You know what I mean? Most people have smaller balances, so we might be talking obviously in single digits here. So I don't think anybody, or for the most part, won't be carrying over a week into the next year. But I think what we can easily do is we could come back next year at some point. If we are still in dire straits and we need to address this again, we can bring another letter of understanding forward at that time. I think that's a fairly reasonable ask.
Okay,
Thank you.
any other comments or questions? Okay, so the motion on the floor at this time is to approve the OPPA holiday, vacation, personal day carryout, payout as described in the letter of understanding. Okay, so a vote of yes is approving it. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item F is the Onalaska Supervisors Officers Relation Division, which is SWORD, Field Training Officer. Chief?
All right, thank you, Mayor. Last but not least, we recognized, Sergeant Colgan runs our field training program, and he has carefully crafted the field training schedule. And with our limited number of field trainers and our high amount of officers we're going to be training, we are running into a shortage of field training officers. So we are asking Sergeant to fill in for one of the phases of field training, and so that we can keep the process moving along and get the officers out on the road, in a timely manner. And so we also recognize that, this is new territory as far as contract goes. And so the sergeants or the SWORD contract does not have FTO pay in it as the OPPA contract does, which is a half hour of overtime for every shift that you serve as a field training officer. And so we're asking essentially to make the sergeants whole as the officers have in their contract when they're serving as a field training officer.
Thank you for that, Chief. Counsel?
I'll make a motion to approve the letter of understanding for item 17F per our agenda, and I reserve my time.
I'll second.
We have a motion on the floor by Alder Wolf. It's been seconded by Alder Milky. We'll start with Alder Wolf.
Thank you again, Your Honor. So Chief, two questions. So field training officers, who are they and how many? And I don't necessarily need names. Are they patrol officers? But who are these field training officers? And how many do we have?
Yes, so field training typically is a patrol officer. And I believe we have 7 roughly.
So
6
our-
or
of our
7
people.
of our officers that go through a certification class, a state certification, and then we have a very rigid documentation system, daily reports that they have to fill out. I mean, it's a very work-intensive program. And so that is by the officers that typically serve in that role.
And this is working with the new recruits.
Correct. So the.
They're- Okay.
And it would be even an officer that laterally transfers into the department. We would send them through the field training program because of course we operate, in some respects unique compared to any other agency, our report writing system and our internal processes. So
So typically right now, your sergeants are not any of the field training officers. You're having your patrol officers performing that role.
correct. Now we have, I believe all 4 of our sergeants or 3 of our current sergeants and the one getting promoted next week are all field training officers certified. They just haven't served in that role since being promoted. And so they would still carry that certification. And it would be our preference that this is not our first go-to when we have officers that need to get into the program. This is more of an emergency situation. So ideally, next year, our sergeants will not need to serve in this role at all.
Say that one more time.
Ideally, next year, after this batch of recruits, our sergeant will not need to serve as an FTO. This is just as this situation, because we are in an emergency situation.
Okay, so per the first paragraph, 1.2.7, field training sergeants will receive 1/2 hour overtime pay for every shift of work while serving as a field training officer. So if they're working 8 hours, they're just going to receive an additional 1/2 hour of actual overtime pay to perform in that role. Is that
Did you
correct?
say 8 hours?
Well, I use the example. When I read this, I interpret this, and please confirm if I'm interpreting this incorrectly. If a field training sergeant does like an 8-hour shift with a recruit, I read this to be that the sergeant will receive 1/2 hour of overtime pay for the shift.
Correct. They work 8.5 hours. So yes, when they work their 8.5 hour shift, they will, on their timesheet, they will mark down 1/2 hour, or 1/2 hour of overtime for that day.
Or just the 1/2 hour of overtime for that. Okay.
Correct, yes.
So it makes 9. That-
Well, it's 8.5 hours of straight time and then 1/2 hour of overtime. So it's, yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I understood that.
Mhm.
I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Stephen Knott.
What, gotta go there. What is the budget impact on this if we were to do this? Because, this is starting to add up. And I'm not saying I'm opposed to it, but at the same time, we do have to worry about a budget. So for 2025, we're talking an extra 22,000 plus however many of the patrol officers refer 1 to 5 days over that will have to pay additional on their leave. And then this. So what is the budget impact of, yes?
Let me add, Sabrina can talk about the money piece, but one phase, what we're looking at is 4 weeks. So it's 20 days of a 1/2 hour of overtime. So that would be 10 hours of overtime. Essentially, we're talking but impact to the budget.
Or up to 7 people.
No, one phase of one person is what we need. There might be a single day here and there loosely that a sergeant needs to fill in, but essentially we are talking about 20 days total.
In a year.
Yes, that's our goal is they would just be used this one time out of these 5 recruits. And Next year, if we need to hire, we will have our other FTOs. I mean, we shouldn't be hiring 5 people is our goal, right?
Go ahead, Amanda.
I'm confused.
So this is a one-time situation that we have this fall where we need this assistance from the sergeant. And so it's a finite number. As the chief mentioned, basically it's 20 days this fall that we think this situation will be applicable.
Oh, it's in 2024 budget.
Yes. So Sabrina,
That would be 10 hours of overtime. So we're talking, I mean, we did not talk about this prior to this, so just give me, it'd be like $700.
You said 670?
700 maybe?
Ish, give or take, yeah. Less than $1,000.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve this compensation for sword field training officer. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your input on this matter. We'll go on to item 18, closed session. Let me read that for you. To consider a motion. Where's the tape recorder? To consider a motion to convene in closed session under section 1985G of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved, specifically potential enforcement action regarding Camping World Coachman Flag, ethics, potential conflicts of interest regarding Camping World. If any action is required in open session as a result of the closed session, the council will reconvene in open session and take the necessary action and/or continue on with the printed agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to go into closed session.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor by Stephen Knott. It's been seconded by Alder Diane Wolf. The voting will be by roll call. Joanne?
Sean McAllister,
Aye.
Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Stephen Knott,
Aye.
Mike Milky.
Aye.
Larry Jurassic,
What should I say? Aye.
Diane Wolf.
Aye.
Okay, we are in closed session. The time is 9:38. Please take a moment while we clear the room and we'll get back at it.